So you're thinking about moving to Pensacola, Florida, or maybe you're just curious what that might look like. Well, then you've come to the right place, because today we're going to talk about everything there is to know about moving to Pensacola, Florida, where you might want to live. We'll even talk about hot topics like flood zones and home insurance in Florida. This is going to be action-packed. You don't want to miss. Let's get into it. One of the first questions that you might ask yourself is, why choose Pensacola in general? What makes it so special? And there's a lot of reasons, but let's start with a few of the major ones. And the first one, hands down, has to be our beaches. We're famous for our white sugar sand. This is the Emerald Coast. It's coined that. We have stunning emerald blue waters on most good days. And that comes with everything that you could ever imagine. The salt life, fresh, delicious seafood that's local, caught daily. Everything, from paddle boarding and water sports, maybe boating, fishing. If you have dreamed of any of those things, well, you found the right place. Pensacola has by far one of the best beaches in the country, and it is definitely a good reason to consider this as a place to live. Okay, so one of the things that makes Pensacola so unique is that we know we're famous for the beaches, right? But we also have a city here, an actual community with culture, and there's a lot of things to do. We've got one of the best towns that I've personally ever been to. It's the kind you envision, where you can park and go to coffee shops, boutique shopping, fine dining with southern food and seafood. There's breweries everywhere, but we have so much community here. Every weekend there's a farmer's market downtown. We're famous for our parades. We've got the Mardi Gras parade. There's festivals that never seem to stop. The Seafood Festival, the Jazz Festival, and so much more. On top of that, we have a minor league baseball team. We've got hockey. And so Pensacola itself feels like a real community and a real city with the beaches just minutes away. And that's one of the things that makes Pensacola so unique. So I could keep going on and on about all the awesome things about Pensacola, but I just wanted to mention a couple of the major ones. And lastly, no state income taxes is a pretty big bonus. And of course that applies to the whole state, but yes, that also includes Pensacola. And we're one of only 8 states that has no state income taxes. It can make a significant impact. If you're on a fixed income, self-employed, or retired, it's worth considering, especially if you're coming from somewhere that either already doesn't have it or you do have it. It can make a big difference. Now let's go ahead and jump in to the nitty-gritty stuff that you came here for. Let's go. Okay, so real quick, I just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of the layout of Pensacola, show you the location, maybe help you determine where you want to live, where you don't want to live, or again, just give you a general idea of the layout. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. We're not going to spend a ton of time, but I'll just familiarize you real quick. First thing to know here is this white dotted line is actually Alabama. So Pensacola borders the state of Alabama. Right in this little line here, the beaches flow in together, and you have a bar called Floribama. It's kind of famous. Just fun to know that Alabama is not that far away. We are about as west in the Panhandle as you can possibly get. But one of the main draws to Pensacola, besides the beaches, everyone knows about the beaches. They are stunning, some of the best in the country, but it's the downtown. Downtown is the second main draw, I would say. Really charming, a lot of shopping, very walkable. It's where all the parades and festivals and really a lot of community-oriented things are going to be focused around downtown. So people often reach out and they think they love the idea of downtown, maybe the walkability factor. But one thing I want to mention is, unfortunately, it's very established, and because of that, you will not necessarily find many subdivisions or new construction around downtown. There's just not really any opportunity for new subdivisions to be built. That being said, you can find very nicely remodeled homes, and sometimes there are new homes being built, but just on individual lots, not again subdivisions. But I mention that because downtown is where a lot of the activities will go within the community. But regardless of where you end up living, you're going to be pretty close for the most part. And I say that relative to maybe somewhere like Orlando, for instance, where they joke that it takes an hour to get to the other side of Orlando. In Pensacola, for the most part, you are only about 20 to 25 minutes at any given time to get anywhere you need to go. Obviously, that can vary a little bit with traffic and whatnot, but that's pretty much a rule of thumb. And part of that is due to the efficient interstate system we have. One runs straight up and down here, and then it connects east and west, and you have a couple other as well. So even if you decide, okay, I want a brand new subdivision home, I want maybe more affordable, and you choose somewhere like North Pensacola in Cantonment. This is a suburb of Pensacola, sometimes better housing prices. Even if you're up here, a straight shot all the way down to Pensacola and downtown is only about 20 minutes, again, maybe 25. Over here you have Beulah, another super fast growing suburb, lots of new subdivisions, lots of other new restaurants and things popping up, but again, very efficient interstate system. You have West Florida, University of West Florida up here, kind of North Pensacola. And then a little bit centered in the heart is going to be the airport. This is our main airport here. Close to that you have the mall, you have Sacred Heart Hospital, we have West Baptist Hospital, Baptist Hospital, and then you have West Florida Hospital. So there's 3 major hospitals here, all kind of centered in the middle of Pensacola. And over to the left, again, you have the Navy base, Perdido Key. What happens is if you take from downtown, you shoot over this, it's called the 3 Mile Bridge, you're gonna find yourself in Gulf Breeze. And this is a little unique because Gulf Breeze is actually a separate county, Santa Rosa County, and it's a different city. That is not a part of Pensacola. Even though it's very close, it's minutes away, it is separate. One more small bridge is what takes you to actually Pensacola Beach. So you're back in Escambia County, and here are our stunning beaches. From downtown to the beach, you're looking at about 15 minutes. Lastly, some other surrounding areas. Pace and Milton are both individual cities here. Maybe 30 to 40 minutes depending on how far you are. Milton obviously a little bit further. Pace, very fast growing. But these are good areas to consider as well. If you're looking at Pensacola, guys, it's not necessarily that far. And sometimes people will decide to live in these areas, but maybe work in Pensacola or visit or vice versa. Some of those factors could just be housing prices, school zones are sometimes a factor. But this is the general layout of Pensacola. Wanted to give you a quick rundown. Let's keep going. So I'm currently standing in one of my good friends' renovation projects. We're in a 100-plus-year-old home in downtown Pensacola, and it got me thinking a little bit about home insurance. I get a lot of calls about people that are concerned with home insurance in Florida. They see the news and they say, hey, what's the deal? Is it as bad as they make it seem? And there's a little bit of a yes and no to that. The truth is home insurance has become a bit more expensive in Florida, but what I really tell people is that it's become more strict. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, most of these companies are not interested in insuring homes that have 10-plus-year-old roofs anymore. So when you're looking at a home, you want to look at 4 major items, and that's the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, and the HVAC. Those 4 items are going to be called a 4-point inspection, and that's what's going to determine your insurance policy. So if you're looking at new construction, for instance, home insurance policies are extremely reasonable. The insurance companies say, hey, everything's brand new, it's built to a new code, a new standard, there's low risk. We'll go ahead and insure it. And we'll look at a couple of real policies here in just a minute. But if you're looking at resale homes, then you just want to make sure those major items have been updated. If they have been, if it's all been renovated, you're probably also going to be looking at a really reasonable policy. But again, we'll look at some real results right now. And then of course, one last thing to consider is how close you are to the water. We are in Florida. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about flood zones as well, but wind insurance is one of the major, most expensive things. And if you're buying a beach home where you can see the water pretty much from anywhere in your house, you're probably gonna have a pretty high policy. And that's because of hurricanes. But if you're in a suburb, if you're off the shore, if you're 20 minutes, even 10 blocks from the beach, your policy will be much more reasonable, much more. Let's take a look at some of those right now. First of all, here is Citizens. And Citizens is kind of like the base standard insurance. Typically, it's not necessarily what I would recommend, but in certain cases, they're going to be the best priced and most competitive. And sometimes, depending on the home, it can be like one of your only options. The nicer the home, the more fixed up and renovated, the more insurance quotes and policies you're going to be offered. And you should always shop as many as possible. You should never just settle for the first one you get. They're very different. But okay, so just to give you an idea here, the dwelling coverage, meaning the price of the property, or at least to rebuild, is around $355,000. Guys, the total policy here, including the wind, is going to be $3,115. So just a little bit under 1%. Let's take a look at another here. This one is actually in Gulf Breeze, Florida, much closer to the water. It's going to be a bit higher. This one actually had water views, so really close to the water, about 9,000. The coverage on the home is up to 615,000, and just so you know, the sale price of the home was right around that price as well. So $600,000 home, directly on the water with views, and you're looking at 9,000. So a lot higher than being up in a suburb or off the water, as we talked about. Let's keep going. This one is in Pace, Florida, quite a ways away from the water. And if you take a look here, dwelling is just about 300,000, and the policy is only $22.82 a year. That includes the hurricane, the wind, and a couple other things. So that's a good policy. This home was nicely updated, but only 300,000, and 2,200 basically is the insurance quote here. Let's keep going. One more. Actually, let me skip that one and come right back. So here's another one. Dwelling 300,000, and total policy 3,037. So again, kind of that 1% rule is going to be like a good, ballpark. You want to shop as many quotes as possible, and depending on how close you are to the water, that can change that dramatically. Now, I want to be transparent here and give you guys an idea of like a really bad one. This is a property that we had on the beach, okay? First thing, the roof was really old, so that's already going to be one of the number one fallbacks. Two, it was also a short-term rental. So on Pensacola Beach, really old roof, short-term rental. Guys, policy is $20,000 a year. Keep in mind this is $1 million property, but that is really high. If this seller would have just got a brand new roof, that would have at least come down a good amount. But on the beach, you can't see much higher policies. But that is a couple of real life examples. Let's keep going. Let's talk about flood zones. I get calls all the time where people ask me if neighborhoods are in flood zones. And look, if you're not from here and you're looking at a map, pretty much everywhere is not that far from the water. So I get it. But you'd be surprised to find out that most neighborhoods actually are not really in flood zones. If you think about it this way, what I tell people is, look, some of these neighborhoods in the middle of the city, if they flood, basically the whole city's underwater, and that just doesn't really happen that often. Now, if you're looking at homes that are pretty much on the beach or you can see water from the property, chances are it's probably in a flood zone. But you can look at what's called a FEMA flood map, and it's public information. This will allow you to look at the zones and tell you whether or not you need flood insurance. But I will tell you again, most of these big builders are not building new subdivisions in flood zones. They know that would kick themselves in the foot, so they're not doing it. So short answer is most areas around here are actually not really in flood zones. Again, unless you're looking at waterfront property or very close to it. So besides flood zones, let's talk a little bit about financing, okay? If you are moving here looking for a primary home, you're gonna live here permanently, then you're probably looking at 3 or 3.5% down. It's a FHA or a conventional loan. On top of that, we are in a bit of a buyer's market as of right now. That means you've got an edge. You can ask for closing costs. You can even get your rate bought down permanently using the seller's funds. The good news is there's a lot of leniency in this market. That gives you an edge. Yes, the downside is interest rates are higher right now, but it's a pro and a con. If interest rates come way back down to where they were, you'll have a ton of competition and home prices will probably go soaring. So there's always good and bad to any market that you're in. If you're looking as an investor here, or maybe you've always dreamed of just having a vacation property, well, there's two ways you can go about it. If you intend to use that property a couple times a year, you can buy it as a secondary home, and it's as little as 10% down. That just means that you're going to rent it out when you're not here, and you'll enjoy it a few times a year yourself. If you have absolutely no intention of ever using the property and it's purely a financial investment, well, you're probably looking at 20 to 25% down. That is what the investor loans are going for these days. But guys, there's always creative products out there. There are down payment assistance programs. And again, it's all about negotiating and having a realtor that can kind of help you win in getting what's important to you. That could be a flexible closing date. That could be new construction, meeting certain deadlines, or again, it could be asking the sellers to hand over a bunch of closing costs, beat them up on the price, or buy down the rate. It's a unique market, you should take advantage of and make sure you have the right person to help you do it. My name's Levi Fortner. I'm with LPT Realty and I run the Fortner Group right here in Pensacola and along the Emerald Coast. If you're interested in real estate or you just want to stay up to date with everything there is to do, eat, sleep, play, right here, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.